the one and only legendary Rickey Medlocke.
Here's what I say to them.
All right? Yeah. So heavy, the energy in that, and
let's F this place up, you know, and
I'll tell you what, man, I'm really glad you mentioned the UK, because obviously I'm from the UK as well. So, but you've been talking about it. You've been talking about it a lot. So, I want to talk about Blackfoot. Obviously, I mean, how can I not talk about Blackfoot because you're here? So, I did mention it just quickly before we came on, but a big part of my childhood was the live album, Highway Song Live. 1982, I believe, 1982. So I was about 12 then. Yeah, I know. But I've got to say, I mean, back then, I don't know if you agree with this, live albums were a massive part of a band's discography. They were the biggest thing, weren't they? You had the studio albums, which were great, but the live albums. So I listened to Highway Song Live the other day in the car, and man, the memory is just, I haven't listened to it for a while, but it sounds huge. It sounds so heavy. The energy in that, and it's just mad. So, and that was no exception as a massive live album for me when I was younger. So it was recorded in the UK. Obviously, hearing you built out like London, Hello London, and all that sort of stuff. I think it was recorded across the UK. What memories do you have of that tour? Obviously, you've got some UK memories.
Well, you know, the interesting part about getting acquainted in the UK, you know, we knew that the Strikes album had come out, and the Strikes album was doing incredible over in the US. I mean, Highway Song had broke wide open, then Train, and the album had just exploded. I mean, we had a platinum record on our hand, and it went gold first, then platinum, and we were like, man. And then all of a sudden, we got an invite to come, you know, over to the UK and Germany and France to play. And it was going interesting because you had the label Atlantic, and you had two different heads of Atlantic over on the US side and over on the UK side. So you had Doug Morris over here on the US side, and you had Phil Carson on the European side. Phil wanted us to come over bad. Doug didn't want us to leave the US. He wanted us to stay and immediately put out another record. And I was at a crossroads to where I was really kind of upset because other songs on that Strikes record was getting really big attention. For instance, Left Turn on a Red Light. Lord, I finally realized I took a left turn on a red light. People were asking, hordes of people were asking us that. And when we would play it live, it would go down as big, almost as big as Train and Highway Song. And I was just curious of why aren't we releasing this tune as the next single? You know? Well, they wanted us to immediately go in the studio and start recording a new record. Well, my God, man, we had been on the road with the Strikes record. We were writing the record on the road. We recorded it and immediately went back on the road. We were on the road 22 out of 24 months.
Wow.
So what ended up happening is that the record label from over on the US side said, we're not going to give you any tour support if you go to Europe. Really? Okay. But the European side said, we'll give you the tour support. So what do? We go over to Europe. Well, we opened, if my memory serves me right, we came over because we were touring with Ted Nugent, was the headliner. We were the special guest, and the opening band was the Scorpions.
Oh wow.
The Scorpions had just started coming over to the U.S. and was on the road with us.
Yeah.
The Scorpions saw us, and we got along so well. They came back. They had a tour in Europe, and they requested that Blackfoot be the opening band. And so we went over to Europe. I think we did 19 dates with the Scorpions, and that started the big buzz in Europe. All of a sudden, we did Monsters of Rock, where they called us the Darlings of Donington. And we went down incredible that day in front of 180,000 people or whatever. And it was rolling, man. I mean, it was rolling. Tom Catton came out. The next thing you know, we had Marauder out. Then the next thing you know, we did this live record. And we recorded it over several nights at different venues and stuff. And I remember being at the Hammersmith Odeon and walking out on that stage and telling everybody, you know, this is a live recording. I mean, there's parts that's cut out of that whole show, as you would imagine.
Yeah.
My dirty mouth, and you know, at the time, you know, I used to walk out and say, "Let's F this place up," you know, and people would go bonkers, you know. That had gotten me into trouble in several venues across the United States because it would cause a freaking, you know, place to break out in fights and everything else. But over that course, I remember walking out on that stage and seeing the Hammersmith, man, and we just locked into it. It was magical that night. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Listening to that album the other day, you can see why you would have really related to England at that time, because we wanted it heavier. And I mean, man, you could almost say that was like metal southern rock. And on that album, it was so heavy, you know.
Well, you know, Charlie and I, you know, the band itself, we always wanted to be heavier than any Southern band was.
Yeah.
We went about, Johnny Van Zandt explained it totally. He's always said that Blackfoot was the only heavy metal Southern rock band to come out, you know? Well, we took pride in that. I mean, you can imagine, you know, when we went to play with, I mean, some of our first shows were done with Nugent, was done with AC/DC, done with Foreigner, done with Iron Maiden, done with, I mean, all these bands. And we were hell bent for leather to go out there and put our stamp on it. You know what I mean? Europe took to us, man, so incredible. And I really believe if there had not have been problems within the record labels, we got caught in the middle of it. And boy, it was such a sad thing. We knew that it was crumbling around our ears. And we were caught dead in the middle of it. I was so upset. I was just, you know, you know, we were practically living over there.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, we had talked about coming over, you know, to England or whatever, and going in the studio and actually cutting a studio record in England. You know, all our heroes came from England. I mean, you got to realize, you know, even though Jimi Hendrix, you know, even though Hendrix wasn't English, that's where he made it out of.
Yeah.
And my hero Clapton and Jeff Beck and Jimmy Page. I mean, all these, you know, and it crumbled around our ears. The business end of it ended up getting within the band and causing problems within the band. And all of a sudden it just fell apart. And
I mean, even more so now. I don't really want to touch on it too much, but the music business now, man, it's so hard for bands now, and it, like, you know, to get a foothold in anything now.
Oh, I'll be honest with you, man. I really feel feel sorry for bands nowadays
Mm.
that's trying their best to figure out where to go, how to do it, when to do it. But I got to tell you something, I, from my heart, I truly believe this. I truly believe that any young band out there, the key to anything is a great song and the perseverance and the vision you have, the heart.
Yeah.
Follow your heart.
Mm.
If your heart's telling you, look, you got what it takes, keep rolling.
Yeah.
Keep pushing, keep rolling. But it's gotta have great songs. Okay.
Yeah.
You gotta have that Sweet Home Alabama. You gotta have that Freebird. You gotta have that Train Trainer, that Highway Song, or whatever. You gotta follow that. You gotta have that great song. If you do, it'll bubble up to where there'll be a young guy sitting here with a song that's bubbled up talking to you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, totally agree, man. We're talking about great songs. This is a good segue to this. Obviously, we've spoken about that brilliant album behind me, Street Survival.
Oh yeah.
So you played drums on One More Time?
How can you stand there smiling after all you've done?
Yeah. Well, I was the drummer from early 71 all the way through right at the end of 72, almost going into 73. I played drums. I wrote with the guy. And here's the discretionary thing, okay? Gary Rossington, not too long before he passed, he made a video from his home in Georgia. And the video was he had been reading all these arguments about, is Rickey Medlocke an original member? And people would go, no, he wasn't original. He wasn't in the plane crash. He wasn't,
I've seen the video. I've seen the video as well. You're right.
Rickey Medlocke was one of the earliest people in the band with us all.
So Gary went on there to clarify, that I was an original guy. Mm. And listen, when I got with the band, I signed contracts under the heading Lynyrd Skynyrd band members. I signed management contract, publishing, recording. My name, Ronnie Van Zant, Gary Rossington, Alan Collins, Larry Junstrom, and Rickey Medlocke. There was the original guys. So Bob Burns, of course, came back with the band. I took his place in the beginning anyway. But Bob came back, and the rest is history. Well, here's the deal. I recorded all that stuff in Muscle Shoals. I played drums. I wrote with the guys, wrote a bunch of tunes. I even sang lead on a bunch of songs.
Well, man, what about the song Seasons?
When the season is turning.
That is one amazing song. And I've got to say, it's got similarities to One More Time for me.
One More Time?
It almost feels like a brother, like a sister thing going on. There's something similar going on there, but you sang lead on that, didn't you?
Well, here's the deal. One More Time is actually Ronnie.
No, but I mean, on Seasons you sang, didn't you?
Oh, on the Season. Oh, yeah, that's
Brilliant.
me.
Absolutely
Seasons,
brilliant.
White. Well, if you listen to the box set of Muscle Shoals collection, you'll hear me singing lead on You Run Around. Several other songs. I sang lead on like 4 or 5 different tunes. I played drums on all the stuff. I played the early version of Freebird. That's me playing drums. Here's the deal. When it came out on the Street Survivors record, it blew my mind. I mean, I was just like, wait a minute, what? So imagine this. Imagine you're a young 28, 29-year-old musician. You're seeing Skynyrd doing what they're doing, and I'm pushing hard because at the time when I left Skynyrd, my grandfather told me, he says, look, I want to tell you something. That band is really going to do something. So if you leave, and they make it. You got to live, and you don't. You got to live with that the rest of your life. Can you do that? I went, Pop, I believe that I'm here to do greatness. And I believe that I'll continue and I'll make it. So at the time when they were doing what they were doing, when everything happened in 77, they had already planned after the Street Survivors. They had already planned to bring that album out, the first and last record.
Yeah.
Well, if you look, there I am on the cover of it. I
love that record, man, as well. It's one of the best. It is one of the best.
There you go. I'm all over the record.
Yeah.
I'm all playing drums. I'm playing acoustic guitar. I'm singing background. And if you listen to One More Time, those backgrounds is me.
Yeah.
Singing with Ronnie. So I, in doing so, the big argument's always been about, was I or was I not? I didn't get in. The thing that was kind of a blow to me was that I didn't get invited or I didn't get inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame with the band. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame stated that I have not had any length or that I wasn't significant to the career, and it didn't warrant me being inducted with them.
Excuse my language. They don't know what the they're talking about, the Rock and Roll.
Well, here's what I say to them.
All right? Yeah, fucking right.
I mean, I'm watching them induct people that I go, what? Are you kidding me? But you know what? That's okay. It is what it is. My Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is the fans out there and the music that I play and the band that I play in, Lynyrd Skynyrd, and my own stuff. That's my, I got inducted to the Native American Music Hall of Fame.
I know, yeah, I read about that, yeah.
And my speech was, I stood up at the podium and I looked around and I went, wow, this is way better than any damn Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction could be. You know what I mean? So you know what, man? Now that looking back on it, man, I think to myself, wow, it really, really gets to me sometimes. Thinking back on my life and my career. And I mean, you got to understand something. I got one lung. I have a respiratory illness called pulmonary fibrosis. I'm not even supposed to be sitting here today. They gave me up. They said I wouldn't live past 14 years of age. And here I am. I'm getting ready tomorrow to turn 74.
Oh man, yes, congrats. I've got to say, you said to me before we started filming, 74 years old tomorrow, yeah? Congratulations, man. Congratulations.
And well, I appreciate it. But what's really funny? I think about it, man. That's been 60 years ago.
Yeah.
And in those 60 years ago, I think about everything that I've done, and I think about my life, and I think about the people I have played next to, some of the most incredibly great musicians. I've been able to share the stage with them. And Ronnie, Gary, Alan, Leon, Billy, Jackson, Greg, Charlie. I mean, the list goes on and on that I've been able to actually stand up there with and really play. I've been on stage and played next to Greg Allman and next to, all these great musicians. And I scratch my head and I go, wow, I came from the west side of Jacksonville, didn't have a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of. And here I am. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That, my friend, is what I get at about young musicians. Stay true to your heart and stay focused and push forward. You know what I mean? It's a great ride. And listen, I'm here. Look, I hope that you and I can revisit again on my 84th birthday. You know what I mean? And you can look at me and say, hey, old timer, what the hell's the matter with you? But
I'll hold you to that, man. I'll hold you to that. I'll be there. Don't worry.
All right, hold me to it. But the one thing, you know, here I have, I'm friends with the great Billy Gibbons. Billy's always been one of my, I mean, people ask me, I go Hendrix, Clapton, Beck, Page, and Gibbons. And with Eddie Van Halen thrown in there on the side. There's my guys. I mean, can you go to a school of rock and find any better? No.
No. I mean, just reading them names off, man. Just making it. I'm speaking to someone who, I mean, it's mental speaking to anyway. But the names you just roll off there, it's just amazing. It really is.
I'm wanting to. I had always wanted to, and believe me, I am a huge Beatle fanatic. The Beatles were so important. And listen, you have no idea how important the Beatles were to me and Gary. Because Gary and I, when the Beatles came to Jacksonville in 1964, I was there.
Yeah.
I saw them. I saw so many great shows in Jacksonville, Florida, it would blow your mind. I saw Jimi Hendrix open for the Monkees. I mean, you know,
mental, yeah.
Well, George Harrison was a guy, I mean, I would have loved to have met all the Beatles, you know, that was a big thing. But one big thing, I would have loved to have met and shook the hands of George Harrison because he was my favorite. There was something about him that was just ultra cool. And my gal, she did get to meet his wife one time and his son, and said that it was just one of the best, you know. But I never got to meet him, and I'm sure that hopefully one day when I get off the bus of life, you know, I'll be able to shake his hand and meet him then. But the one person I would love to meet and stand on stage with and play is Eric Clapton. That's my big thing, man. I can't do it with Jeff Beck. I met Jeff Beck, and it was great. I have not met Jimmy Page yet, which I'm hoping to. But I would love to stand on stage and play the blues with Eric Clapton just one time. You know?
Well, I'm sure loads of people would love to see that, man. That's one of my questions, actually. I haven't done many interviews, to tell you the truth. So one of the questions I always ask someone is, I know it's the usual one, but who would you love to play with? So you've already answered it, man. So that's very cool.
Yeah, man, there you go.
Listen, before we go, man, I just want to know, what's next? So you have mentioned you might be bringing out another song with the Rickey Medlocke band?
At some point, yeah. I mean, at some point we're going to, we've got several on our plate, and they're going to be important songs to bring awareness.
Yeah.
The one thing I do know, you know, Johnny and I have discussed about doing some new Skynyrd stuff, and it's not in the plans yet. We're wanting to maybe, you know, there's quite a few songs. I shouldn't say quite a few. There's quite a lot of songs that we had written that we have part demos to, maybe started a verse and a chorus that Gary was involved in.
Wow.
And man, we've got that stuff laying around.
Well, I mean, I've got to say, man, if you look at the discography of Lynyrd Skynyrd, I think the last two albums have been a massive highlight of Skynyrd's career for me. Obviously, I've got the God and Guns t-shirt on here. And
I see that.
And Last of a Dying Breed. They are amazing albums. So my last question was going to be, is there going to be some new Skynyrd material? That was it.
Well, you know, we've talked about it. Johnny and I have we've spoken about it. We know we have, oh my God, we might have a dozen and a half, 2 dozen songs. It's just kind of laying around there. And you know, to maybe put out. I do have a thing about putting out whole albums now, because I think that people will go online or go to iTunes or go to Spotify or whatever. they'll see a whole album, but they're only going to play 1 or 2 songs, you know.
Yeah.
They might scan over the rest of them, but they'll pick out 1 or 2 of their favorite, and then that's it, you know. My thing is, that's one of the reasons why I like putting out 1 song at a time. And you see how people would accept it, react to it, or maybe they don't react to it at all. Maybe they don't like it, or for whatever reason. But I find that you get a lot of mileage out of 1 song instead of a collective of 10 to 12 songs or more, you know?
Yeah. That's happening more and more. That's happening more and more lately, actually. I've seen a lot of bands doing that.
Yes.
1 song a month or 1 song every 2 months, and then they might release them at the end as an album. But yeah, there's a lot of mileage. There's a lot of mileage in that. You're totally right there.
You could release 1 every 3 months or whatever, and then you get a collection of it and release the collection.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, everybody's got a collection of 5 songs that they can go and grab after they've loved like maybe 3 or 4 of them.
Yeah.
And then you've got the collection, and you're all the better for it, you know.
Definitely. Yeah.
But we have thought about that, and we've also thought about how long are we going to take this. And I will put this out there. There's one more guy. He's such a hero to me, and I know you're going to laugh about this, but you know, me and Gary, Johnny, and I figured, people used to ask us, how long are you guys going to take this? And I always said, hey, look, if the Rolling Stones can do it, we can do it. You know what I mean? And I'm telling you, come on, Keith, if you can do it, I know I can do it. And he's, come on, Keith, join us in Lynyrd Skynyrd and play on stage with us, because there's another one. There's another one I'd love to see climb up there with us, you know? Well,
the thing is, man, it's a lot of the bands, even younger guys than you, if you don't mind me saying, out of the 80s, for instance,
no,
are not performing live up to a standard. But man, every time you hear Lynyrd Skynyrd, every time you hear you guys on stage, it sounds like the record, man, if not better. Do you know what I mean? So you should always keep going, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I've got to tell you, man, we take a lot of pride, I mean, when you come to see a Lynyrd Skynyrd live band, we got nothing on tape rolling. I mean, when you see it, what you see is what you get.
Oh, yes, I will.
You know? And you know what? We take a lot of pride in being the band that we are, the sounding powerful like we sound, to bring in that love and the energy and the everything that goes in to great music. I love stepping out there knowing that it's a machine, that there's going to be no weak spots in it, and we're going to give the audience, we're going to hopefully leave them drained at the end of the night, going, boy, is my ear hurting. But I don't know. We take a lot of pride in that, and we take a lot of pride in the fact that we got great audiences, we got great fans. Some of the fans, to me, are the best fans in the world that are Lynyrd Skynyrd fans, And but listen, my friend, I thank you for this today. I really do. To the bottom of my heart, man.
It's an honor, man. It really is having you on, man. It's been such a pleasure having you on, man. And just one more thing, I'm going to put those links below the video.
Yeah, man.
Obviously for the amazing, calls that you're raising money for on the Never Run Out of Road songs. It's an amazing song. If anyone hasn't heard it as well, you've got to listen to it, get hold of it, buy it, and all those proceeds, some of them go towards those great charities that Ricky's talking about.
Yes. Well, it's very important. It's very important to me to raise the awareness. So I urge everybody, go to the links, donate if you can, check it out. It's a very important thing. Everybody needs to know about it. And I thank you, my friend. It's been a big honor and a pleasure being here with you. And let's do it again.
Happy birthday for tomorrow.
Okay.
All right. Cheers, man. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming on.
Take good care, my friend. I'll talk to you soon.